Signalling in one form or another has been a feature of the railway for almost 200 years. There are elements of the Stockton and Darlington Railway rulebook that are still relevant today, and there are other old rules that as a signaller I can readily identify with. Indeed, if you want to follow the latest signalling practices, then you can do no better than referring to a booklet which is available from the RSSB as a download called RS521. When it comes to model railway signalling, it is often added as an afterthought unless the builder has a specific interest in signalling. Jeff had that specific interest, being a long-standing member of the Signalling Record Society. That he had a second career as a signalman at Slough Old is largely irrelevant to the development of the signalling on the SR7 group layout. That I have emulated him to a certain extent and also had a second career as a signalman and now a shift signalling manager at New Cross Gate is also merely a coincidence. By all accounts, our model railway is large, not quite on the scale of Heaton Lodge or Leamington Spa maybe, but we have been working on it for 30 years or so. Indeed, my eldest son was barely born when we first started, and now he is a train driver. It also isn't DCC but old school analogue, and there are 8 operating positions in 3 buildings plus 1 station outside, and it is possible to have over 10 trains moving at once. It can be operated by 6 people, just about, but if you fill every position properly, it takes over 20. We have over 100 working signals, and others that are purely for effect. When we first started, most of the railway was outside and we did have some very nice signalling. However, this was largely cosmetic as the railway still ran if a particular signal was not operated. Attractive, but of no practical use if not used. Signals were operated by a complex system of fishing traces, weights and springs under the baseboards, and certain locations still have this system of operation today. This was mainly dictated by the fact that most of the railway was outside, exposed to the elements throughout the year, and certain signals were also made removable for storage over the winter months. Some signals indoors are also operated by this mechanical method, which over the years has been surprisingly reliable. Fast forward to 2012, and after a couple of years with poor weather and the fact that we weren't getting any younger, it was decided to rebuild the outside part of the railway indoors. Smithfield, in the garage, had the first truly operative signals as opposed to cosmetic, and some actually did serve an operational use quite early on. They were built by Roger Murray and made to operate by me, and I must work out how to get the disc to work sometimes. That they had to do something practical other than being cosmetic was dictated by the proximity of Great Victoria Street High Level, which to Smithfield is in a separate building, but it is less than a train length. Going towards Coulsdon, the signals are operated by Heathcote Electronics IRD ASC4 modules, although I have modified the train detection to use infrared detectors from a company called Block Signalling. Signals at Great Victoria Street Low Level are also cosmetic to some extent, although the operation of some signals control how the fiddle yard in the garage operates. Most signals here are operated by servos, and this was the testbed for the rebuilt sections in the new shed. Again, Southwark and Bermondsey are also cosmetic and operated by fishing line and weights, although plans are afoot to convert the signals here to servo operation. The semaphore signals in the old shed were built by various people: Simon Toll, Bob Gilmore, Mike Ball, and yours truly, me. Moving into the new shed, it was decided as a matter of policy to compel operators to use the signalling. In other words, for it to perform a useful function in the context of operating the railway. Therefore, a large number of signals control the isolation of trains. This has not made my task any easier, being seen as the electronics whiz by everyone else. I have largely tried by means of simulation to get the signals to operate like the prototype while performing an isolating function, and thereby reducing the complexity of the location operating panels. Of course, the lack of complexity all went out of the window when I was presented with bits from the Slough and Reading Western Region NX panels to make up the junction controller at Coulsdon C. The box is made out of hardwood and is extremely heavy. The panel itself has 118 24-volt bulbs of an unusual type. Yes, I tried getting 12-volt bulbs from the supplier, but they wanted me to order 10,000 as a minimum at 60 pence each. All of what is on display connects to a 19-inch rack case, which has 3 8-bit computers in it. You may have seen my video elsewhere on the use of Pickaxe microcontrollers. This uses 3 of the largest types and interfaces with the points, the signals and the panel, and has almost 1,500 lines of code in total. Track circuits are also fitted to eventually make the lights turn red when occupied by a train and to operate TOR, which is train operated route release. Although you can't isolate a train in the down direction, you have to operate the NX. If you don't have the route set on the NX, you can't operate the platform starters, so nothing will move. Over at Coulsdon A, where the largest lever frame is, certain signals are associated with isolating sections. Signals Charlie Alpha 9, 10 and 11 do not have a train holding capability, but they have to be off for the other down signals to work. Charlie Alpha 10 is a working calling on arm, which uses another block signalling detector to detect the train. With regards to the signals themselves, they were built largely by Mike Ball from the Epsom Club, but certain signals were also built by Simon, Bob and me again. Some of the signals used here used to stand outside and were removable, and now that is no longer necessary. Bexhill is interesting from a signalling point of view, as everywhere else largely consists of Southern Railway, Southern Region signals with rail-built posts. Here it was decided that we would be more diverse and unusual, so there are all sorts of pre-grouping signals, from a South Eastern and Chatham Railway lower quadrant to Stevens flat shunting signals. As at Coulsdon A and C, the signals control train isolation and operate in a prototypical order. They are also interlocked with the points as elsewhere. All signals in the new shed are servo operated. We use SG90 servos, and these are connected to my own design driver circuits. The operating mechanism is quite complex, but communication is done by serial commands from a central controller to the servo driver. This is due predominantly to the distances involved, and although we do still have occasions where the signalling becomes possessed, this has largely been eliminated by fitting ferrite rings to the traction wiring to eliminate interference. We also have braided servo wire under test. Warrior Square Pier, which is outside and used to be the old Bexhill, still uses fishing traces and weights. The challenge here has been to interface this with the NX panel, and to be honest, I haven't actually got round to carrying this out yet. It's on the lengthy to-do list. Trains are operated by what would be called telephone block, using proper safety critical communication protocols when we run a timetable. Although I must point out the answering of a phone with East London Line signaller rather than wherever I am working is generally greeted with quite a bit of mirth. Southern style train describers are being worked on for each location to reduce this amount of communication. And that is about that. I hope you've enjoyed the walk around of the SR7 Mill Group layout signalling. Please remember that a setup does not need to be of this size and complexity to be enhanced by signals or signalling. The signals on display were all built from readily available parts, rails and brass section, and there are a multitude of guides and books on construction. There is also a large number of resources about the real thing, from excellent books to websites and booklets such as the one that I mentioned at the start. It isn't as hard as it may seem to get a convincing signalling arrangement on even the smallest of personal layouts. Please have your questions ready for the Zoom session, and Jeff and I will do our best to answer them. Thank you very much for watching.